Hi, mine's Phil. I like talking about politics. So, as I discussed yesterday, Nigel Farage was not in Parliament or Clacton or even his posh millionaires club in London.
I'm the most open person to any journalist.
Undoubtedly, you're the handsomest man in the world. Why do you ban journalists who oppose your views from coming to your events?
He was in America to, as Keir Starmer put it, badmouth Britain and implore a foreign government to impose economic sanctions on us, hurting working people. But it seems that Farage didn't get it all his own way. He will have been there at the invitation of MAGA Republicans keen to press Trump's anti-free speech agenda. But there were Democrats on the House committee as well, and Farage faced a few home truths about his own relationship with free speech. He did not seem to entirely enjoy the experience. But first, for daily news and politics, please click the subscribe button to stay notified. So the first thing I noticed was he was sporting his GB News suit and lapel badge. Reminds me of the time when Robin Williams suggested politicians behave more like NASCAR teams and display their sponsors on their clothing, so we know who owns them. Looks like Farage took his advice. But I'm also guessing it means Farage was invited there as a broadcaster, even though he has nothing to say on freedom of speech as a broadcaster, because GB News frequently push disinformation, and although they cop for the occasional fine, they have never faced serious consequences. Billionaires willing to lose tens of millions of pounds a year on GB News are not bothered about a few Ofcom fines. You know how it is. For rich people, a fine is just permission to break the rules for a fee. But anyway, let's get into some of the exchanges Farage had with Democrats sitting on the House committee, with one in particular.
But I wanted to ask you about your commitment to the freedom of speech universally. I think it's a principle that you advocate for everyone, not just for people who are in your party or people you agree with. You said that there should not have been a protest against the Gaza war in the UK. And then when it went ahead, the police refused to shut it down. You called them gutless for not shutting it down. Do you regret having opposed that, given that there was no violence there and there were 700,000 people who wanted to express themselves that day?
I have not opposed people standing up and protesting in favour of people living in Gaza at all. There was one particular day, and it was the Sunday nearest November the 11th, which was when we had big memorial services in London. And I think a march being allowed to go ahead on that day would have been a mistake. Any other day, fine.
Oh, I see. Who gets to decide that?
What I think actually is something that is embedded in the country, something that is absolutely fundamental to
That's why we have a written constitution. You might take that idea back to the UK with you. Well, because the freedom of speech applies 365 days a year here under the First Amendment, not 364 or 363, depending on some politicians heckling the government and telling them to shut down free speech.
We have allowed mass pro-Gaza demonstrations in London, weekend after weekend.
No thanks to you.
Weekend.
All right, let me change.
This was
let me try another one.
Sensitive day. That's all.
I got you. It was a sensitive day. And I thought that's what the freedom of speech was about. You have a right to engage in speech that other people consider offensive or insensitive. But in any event, you've made yourself clear, Mr. Farage.
64 days a year if they want.
You've made yourself clear to your constituents in Claxton today. Let me ask you this. You've banned journalists from your political events that you disagree with, haven't you?
No, in fact, I'm the only political
Really? At your convention, you didn't ban journalists and revoke their credentials?
So just to be clear, Nigel Farage has banned journalists from Reform UK events and continues to do so. It is also the case that Reform UK Council has banned their councillors from talking to journalists locally. In the hearing, Farage said, I'll talk to the head of that council. But that's because he was trapped, right? It's not a good look for him to be moaning about, free speech, and for his own party to have literally banned their councillors from talking to local journalists. It was big news in this country before the hearing. He knew about it. He hasn't spoken to the council leader about it. The fact of the matter is, Nigel Farage is the leader of Reform UK, like few other political party leaders are really leaders of their party. Farage is leading a cult. Nobody in his party does anything without his approval, because if they do, we know what happens to them. Just ask Rupert Lowe. But others as well. I mean, at the recent protest, the Epping Hotel protest, right? A Reform UK councillor there got himself into a bit of trouble with a bit too openly racist, and he's been dropped by Reform UK. Anyone steps out of line in Reform UK, Nigel Farage drops them. He micromanages that party. If they do something he doesn't like, they're gone. He not only knew about the journalism ban in Nottinghamshire, but the other examples of Reform UK councillors trying to crush free speech in other counties as well. I did a video on some of the examples recently. If I know about them, so does the leader of the party.
I take the average press conference. I take 25 questions.
No, that wasn't my question, Mr. Farage. We're politicians, so we see what you're doing. I'm asking you a direct question.
Well, thank you.
I'm asking you a direct question, and I hope you can answer it. Why do you ban journalists who oppose your views from coming to your events? Why did you tell your party? Why did you tell the local government not to do interviews with your local newspaper?
I'm the most open person to any journalist.
Undoubtedly, you're the handsomest man in the world. But I'm asking you a different question, okay? That's not my question. My question for you is, and it's legit, why do you ban journalists that you disagree with from your political events, like from your convention?
I don't.
Okay, and you say you've never done that?
I can't think, if I go back the last 25 years, I can't think of banning anybody. But I mean, maybe somebody else did. But look,
I see, it was somebody else who did it.
Also note the dodge Farage attempted there. Maybe someone else banned them. Raskin called him out immediately on that one, of course. Yes, someone else will have carried out the administrative task of banning journalists from Reform UK events, but it's Farage's instructions. It's all very well him saying he takes more questions than other political leaders. That is easy to do when you only invite friendly journalists to ask them, isn't it? Maybe invite a proper spread of journalists and see how many questions he decides to take then. In fact, it's not just that Nigel Farage has a history of banning journalists from events where he'll be speaking. He's doing it right now. James Ball of the New European has a piece out detailing how Farage removed his accreditation for the Reform conference coming up. And they did it just a couple of days before the event itself as well. Like I said yesterday, Nigel Farage is no defender of free speech. He's a promoter of hate speech and an opponent of being asked difficult questions. In fact, the hearing yesterday was quite remarkable. I saw someone say that, he's never been questioned like this before. It's not actually true. What was unique about it was he's never been questioned like that before and not got up and stormed out, because that's what he usually does. There was one particularly famous moment quite recently when he was being asked tricky questions by Sky News, which are hardly the most hostile to him. And he shouted, "I've got 1 million TikTok followers," and promptly sodded off. I have to say, when I saw the first clip of the exchange between Raskin and Farage yesterday, which is where, Farage was described as like Putin loving all the stuff, I didn't think much of it, I have to say. I thought, well, that's just a partisan attack, isn't it? There's nothing really in this. The fact it was completely true didn't really matter that much. But Raskin really did do his research and ask some very good questions. It shows just how easily Farage falls apart when he is asked tough questions, particularly in a scenario where he cannot or will not want to just get up and walk out. He was also asked about his relationship with Donald Trump and Elon Musk on the basis of needing money, big money, to make a big push to become Prime Minister. But as I'm already planning on talking about the way Musk has turned on Farage this year, with particularly the rant a few days ago, I'll leave that for that other video tomorrow, possibly. But let me know what you think in the comments below. For more content, you could subscribe to the channel or even join for access to streams of behind the scenes updates. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.